Hello, hello! Welcome back to the Distressed Princess. I'm so happy to be back. I have a video to share. It's a really great one. It's a high-end dupe collaboration hosted by the Blondie next door, and also participating is actually Allie and Lisa and company. I'm not sure if you would consider Hobby Lobby a high-end store or not, but definitely I could spend a lot of high-end money in the store. Like this whole display full of home decor items that I saw the last time I was there. I just love the colors. I love the cottage feel of them. And if I were to buy every single one of them, I'm sure the money would rack up. I will total everything. I'll even discount it. I'll even do the 50% off. And then we'll total what we spent to recreate them. And I'm sure it's going to be a lot less money. So stick around and see what's in store. First up on the dupe list is this blue-green vase, this glass vase thing. And it was $12.99, so okay, half of that, let's say $6.50. But I found the exact same bottle at the Goodwill store. Someone had obviously did their own DIY with it, and some of the elements on it I thought were really cute. But I want that blue-green color, so I'm going to take this $3 Goodwill vase and I'm going to transform it right before your eyes. I took off all of its embellishments and used my Dollar Tree scraper to scrape away the leftover hot glue that was used on it previously. It came right off, and then I wiped it down really good. I also want to say that if you're not able to find this very vase, I mean, what luck, I found the very thing, like the very thing that was at Hobby Lobby. They have amazing glassware at the Dollar Tree. They even have taller vases. They even have those vinegar, oil and vinegar bottles that would be really cute with this effect that I'm getting ready to show you. So to turn the clear glass into the blue-green color, I'm going to use white school glue and food coloring. You'll need green and blue. So how much glue do you use? I really don't know. I emptied out what was left in my glue container. It covered just the very bottom of this glass container. It turned out being the perfect amount just to cover this vase that I'm doing. So however much you need depends on what you're painting. The food coloring I'm using is just good old regular liquid food coloring, Great Value brand from Walmart. I started out with green and I thought one drop, let's just start small and see where that goes, and wait till you see what this one drop turns into. As I'm stirring this up with my foam brush, it is a very bright, almost neon green. I almost wondered if I hadn't accidentally bought the neon color food coloring, because they do have that. But nope, it's the regular. So now I'm going to put one drop of the blue and see what that gets us. So then when I start mixing up the blue, I'm thinking now this might be a little too blue. So then in the end, I went with one more drop of the green. So that was 2 drops of green, 1 drop of blue, and I think that gave me pretty much the green color I was looking for. Then the last step is just to paint the glue mixture onto the glass, and I tried to do this as thin a coat as possible because I didn't want it gloppy. It's kind of hard. It's not like, working with paint. It is definitely working with glue, so it doesn't go on very smooth, but after it dries, you really don't notice any imperfections. It all kind of evens and levels out as it dries. And so just try to do a thin coat and get it on as even as you can, but don't worry and fuss over it too much. And then after you get it all painted, then set it aside to dry for, I would say, at least 24 hours. And here's the final result. Instead of the original $12.99 price tag, I only paid $3 for this project. The host for today's collaboration is Yelena, otherwise known as the Blondie Next Door. There will be a link in my description box below so that you can go check out her channel. And you're going to want to go check out her channel because just look at all these cute projects that she puts together. And they're so simple. She explains them so well, so you'll be able to make them too. There will also be a link to the playlist in my description box so you can see what actually Allie made and Lisa and company. Second on the list of Hobby Lobby dupes is this really pretty picture. I love the colors in it. And so $21.99, $22. So half that, $11. And we're going to make it for cheaper. So since I was in Hobby Lobby, I was obviously looking for craft supplies too, and I came across the clearance aisle, and in the clearance aisle was all these art pieces, all these canvases and nice framed pieces for super cheap. So $5.49 is what I paid for this. And it was really cute, but I don't have anywhere in my house to put this, so I knew that I would paint over it, and so this is what's going to be our base for making a painting. Now don't be scared. Don't be scared. I'm not a painter. And I'm going to show you how I pull off this magic trick. And it really isn't hard. You can do it too. So the first step is to paint over the existing whatever the picture is. And it takes at least 2 coats. See, you can see sort of the design still through that first coat of paint. I'm using regular white acrylic paint for this project because I wasn't sure how doing a painting over chalk paint would do. It might be too textury or too dry, so I went with latex or acrylic, I'm sorry. And so 2 coats to cover up the original design. Now take a deep breath. We're going to start the painting. And I gathered 3 colors. I had to mix some colors together to get the ones that I wanted, but you see I have a gray, a darker green, and a bluish color green. We're going to just do some leaves. The brush I'm using is the thinnest, flattest little brush in my arsenal, and I'm going to show you a trick here. Dip one side of the brush in one of your colors of green and the other side of the brush in the gray. And so when you paint something, now you're going to have 2 colors going onto your quote-unquote canvas, or I don't know, your art piece, whatever you want to call this. And so I'm going to start just by drawing some stems. Just thin, wispy stems. I'm just imagining how I want this leaf branch to look, and then I'm just gently putting it down onto my piece. Now, when I tell you I have no idea what I'm actually doing, I mean it. I've never taken a painting class or even watched a YouTube video on how to do a painting. I'm just playing here, just dipping this brush into colors and just seeing what works and what doesn't. And I did practice beforehand on a piece of cardstock paper. So I would recommend that. Practice first if you're unsure, you don't want to go right to your framed piece, but get more comfortable as you're practicing. Now, the next thing I want to show you is making the leaves. And there's a real easy trick to doing this. I'm again going to load my brush, one side with a green color and the other side with either another green color or the gray. I want to have 2 colors. And then when I put my brush down onto the piece, I just kind of twist and wiggle and move it up into the outline of a leaf. And then I fill in the middle. And by doing this, I get different colors in my leaf, and it's not just a flat looking leaf. It looks like it's got motion. And you'll notice the 2 leaves at the bottom, those were the first 2 that I painted, and I was a little scared. I didn't load my brush up quite enough, so they didn't get completely filled in with paint. I considered leaving them like that because they looked kind of faded, but in the end, I went back and touched them up. And this is how it's looking after I get all of my leaves onto the stems. And the next step is to dry this a little bit with your heat gun or your hair dryer, because the part after this, you're going to be painting some little white flowers. Don't worry, they're really simple too. And you don't want your white paint mixing with your green. Maybe if you're an accomplished painter, you can do that, and it might be a really cool effect, but since I have no idea what I'm doing, I didn't want my white mixing with the green, so I'm drying my green paint first. The brush I'm using for the flowers is a little rounded brush. It's a little tiny round brush, and I thought it would make good petals. And so I'm going to go back. Oh, by the way, all these paints that I've used today is just the Apple Barrel craft paint, just acrylic craft paint, not a specialty paint at all. So anyway, on to making the flowers. I get some of that white paint onto my brush, and then I just make dots. 4 little dots. And the 4 little dots, if you use your imagination, look like little white petals. And because our background is white, of course, a white flower is not going to show up on the white parts. So I use some of that gray paint, and I do 4 little dots of gray paint that I actually still have white paint on my brush too. So the white and the gray are mixing some. And that way, if you're going to paint a flower in a space that's right there on the white background without any green behind it, it'll show up. So you have little white flowers that's on the green leaves, and then you have little white and gray flowers that's on the white background, if that makes sense. But your eye just thinks they're white flowers. The last thing I did was just a few little touch-ups. I just did some little dark green lines in the centers of the leaves to make them look a little more realistic, and that's it. There you have a little greenery stem with white flowers. Now, our original painting from Hobby Lobby had a glass jar that these stems were in, and I'm not accomplished enough to try to paint a glass jar, so we're just going to stick with the basic stems, and that's it for our painting. If you'll remember, the original price on this picture in the store was $21.99, and I only paid $5.49 to make this. Next up is the sweet little cow picture. This cow just looking over his shoulder at me was so stinking adorable. The price tag is $29.99, and so obviously we're just going to need to find a really cute picture frame. I found this one at the Goodwill store. It is a metal frame. I only paid $2 for it, and I liked that it had all these neat little cutouts. Now for the cow, I found the perfect picture. It's a watercolor graphic of this cow, and I got it from Creative Fabrica. Creative Fabrica is a paid subscription service, but it is so worth the money. I will leave a link in my description box below where you can go to Creative Fabrica and subscribe if you'd like to. If you're not going to subscribe to Creative Fabrica, I'm sure you can Google a cow picture and just use any of the Google images, as long as you're not going to sell them. You have to be careful with that. But anyway, go to Google Images and just Google a nice milk cow, and you can do it that way too. Now back to the picture frame. All I'm going to do is give it 1 coat of Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint on the front and the back. Here it is, all painted up, and now we just got to put the cow in there. And here's the cow. I think I'm gonna call her Bessie. I'm actually going to put this picture in my kitchen because I'm feeling the cow stuff. The cow picture in the store was $29.99 and I was able to do it for only $2. And who could pass up this frilly little throw pillow for $19.99 if it was half price? If it were half price for $10, yeah, maybe it would be worth it. But I'm going to show you, if you don't want to pay $20 or even $10, how to do it cheaper. Walmart has this little travel pillow for $3.42, and I am going to give it a cute makeover to look like the one in the store. Walmart also had a more square pillow for $5, but I just went with the cheaper one. To make the frills for the pillow, I'm using an old Battenberg lace curtain that I've had laying around for years. Actually, it's a curtain swag, so there's two pieces. This was originally purchased at a yard sale for, I'm sure, no more than $1. And I'm going to cut this into pieces and arrange it on the pillow so that it will give the feel of that ruffle pillow in Hobby Lobby. Of course, the part that I wanted to use most is the Battenberg lace part of the curtain. So I'm cutting off the excess fabric and leaving about 3 or 4 inches of fabric outside of the lace part. Now I realize that I already had this curtain laying around and you may not have anything like this at your house, but what I think you should do is go to Goodwill or search your yard sales and thrift stores for curtains like these, tablecloths with these little designs on them, or doilies. Any of these items could work to put on the pillow. And I wasn't sad at all about cutting up this curtain because I've had these laying around for years and never had a window to put these up at. And so I'm going to actually finally get some use out of it by putting it on the pillow. I cut some of the pieces longer and some of the pieces shorter, and I just thought I would try to patchwork piece them together onto the pillow. And as you see here, I'm ironing out all of the pieces. Before you start putting your pieces onto the pillow, make sure that the stuffing is all laying in there the way you want it to be. And of course, I cut that big, long, ugly tag off. Then I just started putting the pieces onto the pillow just to get sort of a layout, an idea of how I think it should go, and just kind of like a puzzle. I just layered them up wherever I thought they would be pretty. My curtain, once I had it cut up, only had enough pieces to do one side of this pillow, but if you had more material, of course you could do the back side too. But I'm just working on the front. So now that I have everything laid out exactly how I want it to be, now I'm going to start attaching them down. And so I started with the first piece that I had put down, and I'm just going to gently peel back all the other pieces and hot glue this first piece in place. And I wanted to try to leave the ruffle edges as free as possible. I used some glue to put them down in a few little places, but I still wanted them to not be completely glued down. I wanted them to be a little movable. When it came to the corners, I just wrapped around and then I hot glued along the natural seam of the pillow. And I am just using regular hot glue sticks, the clear ones, but I really recommend using fabric glue sticks if you have them or if you can find them, because I think that it would give you a better overall result. So I just went along piece by piece, gluing them all down into place. And when you're all done, this is what you have, a really frilly, girly cottage style throw pillow. The original price of the pillow in the store was $19.99, and I was able to dupe it for only about $3.50. The next dupe are these really cute ceramic flowers, and the price was $11.99. So if that was half off, we'll say $6 for this flower, but we're going to use some Dollar Tree items and we're going to make it for $2. The first thing you need is this little dish from the Dollar Tree. The second thing you need are these plastic white spoons from the Dollar Tree. And the third thing you need is a lit candle. Now, I know that this may seem crazy, but you can melt these spoons and manipulate them to look like flower petals. Just hold the spoon over the heat of the flame, not touching the flame at all. Just hold it until the spoon starts to bend and warp. And then after a couple seconds, you can actually touch it with your fingers without getting burned. It won't be hot because it cools really quick. And you can shape it and fold into leaf petals. And here I'm showing you where you're going to cut with your scissors to just get the petal. And you can heat that part over the flame so when you use your scissors, the plastic doesn't go flying across the room. It's already softened and it's easy to cut. And so you'll make enough of these that they will be the first layer to go around inside this dish. When you have enough for the first layer, then just use your hot glue gun to glue them all down into place. Now you're ready to start making your second layer of petals. And each layer that you go up, you want to warp and bend the spoon a little more because, when you get to the center of a flower, it's more curled up the more toward the center you get. Also, with each layer that you go up toward the center of the flower, you want to cut the end of the spoon off a little shorter. Just keep on making petals and hot gluing them around your flower. And when you're finished, you have something that looks like a ceramic flower. No one would ever know you made these out of plastic spoons. In Hobby Lobby, the flower was $11.99, and I was able to make my version of it for only $2. In Hobby Lobby, I thought that this little chalkboard was the cutest thing to go with this display of stuff, but its price tag of $13.99 was, a little steep for something like that, and especially when we can make it ourselves. All you need is one scrap piece of wood. I've had this laying around. It's already got green paint on it, which is great, but I wanted to give it another layer of green paint to make it a little richer color. And the paint I'm using is Waverly chalk paint in the color Moss. I wanted this project to turn out really professional and nice, so I did make a Cricut decal for it, and it was really simple. It only took me 5, maybe 10 minutes to do. I was really happy about how this turned out. The original price in the store was $13.99, and this one for me was free because I already had all the stuff. But even if you had to spend a couple dollars for a piece of vinyl at Michael's, it's well worth it. Next up is the ceramic pitcher with the ferns inside. And this pappy was heavy. I hardly could pick it up with one hand. And $39.99. So, okay, if that was half off, we'll call it $20. And the ferns that are inside were $10.99. So let's say that's half off. We'll call that $5.50. When I went into the Goodwill, I was really hoping to find something that was that heavy pottery, that ceramic type stuff that our original was. I was unable to find anything like that. However, I did find the correct size that I needed. I found this blue vase for $3, and we're going to be able to make it look like it's ceramic, hopefully, and it's going to give us the same effect minus the handles. What you'll need to make this vase look ceramic is some white acrylic paint and some paint pouring medium. And this little jar of paint pouring medium came from the Dollar Tree. But before you get to the paint pouring medium, first you want to do one coat of just regular acrylic white paint onto the vase. Or if it's not too cold and the weather is nice where you live, take it outside and spray paint it with some white spray paint. And since my vase is blue, I painted down inside the neck so that there will be no blue showing. Before you move on, you really need to have more patience than I do. You need to let this vase dry completely, like maybe overnight even. Let it be completely dry before you move on, and I'll show you why. But I dried mine with a hairdryer and called it dry enough. That's how I operate. But onto the paint pouring medium, you see here I just put some of the white acrylic paint down into a jar that I can mix stuff up in, and see here how much I've got there. And now I'm going to pour some of that paint pouring medium right in with the white paint. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, and it's going to be thin, and that is so that you can pour the paint. And it's supposed to be runny, and it's supposed to run everywhere. But I'm not actually going to be pouring it. I'll show you what I do next. Instead of pouring this mixture onto the vase, I'm going to paint it on with my foam brush. And my reasoning for this was I thought that, when you pour this on, there's going to be so much that just drips off. And it'd be like, I don't know, wasted paint. Maybe there's a way to catch it and keep on reusing it. I don't know. But I decided for my purposes, I was just going to paint it on with my foam brush. And you can see that it is runny, it is dripping, and at first I thought, well, I'll just let gravity do its job, and I will let this paint just kind of run down this vase and get it covered. But then you got drip marks and runs, so no, I just went back to regular painting it on. My hope was that this paint pouring medium mixed into the paint would give the paint more of a glaze like goes on ceramic, and so it wouldn't just be a flat paint. It wouldn't be like the brush marks that you get with Mod Podge when you seal stuff with Mod Podge. And I didn't want it so shiny that it looked like it had clear coat on it either. I just wanted it to look like ceramic glaze. Now back to the part where I said make sure your vase, your first coat, is completely dry before you move on to this second paint pouring medium step. This is because this stuff is so wet and runny when you start painting it on, and your vase might not be completely dry and cured, then your first layer is going to come off a little bit. And I don't know if you can tell it so much. I could definitely tell it as I was working on it, but it was kind of taking off the first layer, and I was getting some patchiness and some roughness, and so you know me, I'm just gonna roll with it though and call it texture. Here's what it looks like after it's completely dry, and like I said, I've got some little rough places that you may not have if you had let your first layer dry completely like I should have. To make this vase look a little more ceramic, I'm going to add some color to it, and the color is Beachcomber Beige by Apple Barrel. It's just acrylic craft paint, and I'm just going to paint on some lines all the way around the entire vase. And don't worry, I'm not going to leave it looking like a tiger. It's going to be a subtle line. After you've got your lines painted on, then go back to your acrylic paint mixed with the pouring medium and paint that right over the top. And that gives more of a subtle look of color underneath of the paint and just makes it look more ceramic. Instead of using the $10.99 ferns from Hobby Lobby, I'm going to use 4 bunches of greenery from the Dollar Tree, so it only cost me $4. Remember, the vase in store was $39.99, and I was able to make a similar item for only $3. And that's not including the cheaper foliage that was only $4, and the original was $10.99. And the total for everything on this whole display, if you bought everything that I made, was $161.92. If it were all half price, it would be $80.96. However, I was able to make every single bit of it for only $23.99. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you got some great ideas and inspiration. Don't forget to check out the playlist in my description box below to see what all the other lovely ladies made today. Have a good day.